Hi everyone, I'm going to show you how to make pizza today. Just like our bagel recipe, we're going to be needing the same ingredients. We have plain white flour, white sugar, yeast, and salt. We also have olive oil. We don't need to have olive oil, but it makes the flavour so much better. Now, just like our bagel recipe, our pizza recipe actually requires less materials than our bagels. So all we need really is a mixing bowl and an oven tray. You can have a wooden spoon to mix the dough. You also might need a cooling rack to cool the pizza on, but again, you can just use your oven tray for that later on. First step is to put my flour in my bowl. It is 500 grams of flour. I'm going to put 20 grams of sugar into my bowl of flour. I'm going to put 10 grams of salt into my bowl of flour and sugar. 5 grams of yeast into my bowl of sugar, salt, and flour. Now you just want to whisk all the dry ingredients together. I'm going to pour in 300 grams or milliliters of water. It's okay if you go over or just under 300. The more water that you put into it, the more airy the pizza is going to be. And the less water you put into it, the more kind of firm and stiff it will be. Now grade sixes, just like our bagels, I'm going to now mix my water and flour together by hand. Once it's mixed together, I'm going to pop it out onto my bench here, and I'm going to continue kneading it until it's just nice and smooth, just like our bagel recipe. Now with the pizza, you might remember from last week that we left the bagels to sort of, the dough to sort of relax for a little bit and then came back and gave it a bit more of a knead. We're not going to do that this time, we're not going to bother with that. So we're just going to knead it until it's really nice and smooth, and I'll let you know what comes next. So I'm just, again, if you weren't here for our bagel video, the technique I'm using is I'm sort of just pressing down and then rotating around and then pressing back down again. So I'm just trying to get all the dry flour mixed into the dough. So as you can see here, I've almost finished getting all the dry flour out. Here you can probably see some flour here that's stuck to the bowl. We can just scrape that off. But now that it's sort of into a ball, we can just, even if there are dry bits, we can just do this. And then this will become our surface here that we knead on. We probably don't need any dry flour because it's actually quite firm now. If you do feel overwhelmed though and you feel like it's getting too sticky and frustrating, just sprinkle some plain flour over it and it will become a lot easier to handle. So I'm just going to knead this now on the bench until it's really nice and smooth. And again, before I speed this up, the technique I'm using again is we're just pushing down and then coming back around, giving it a twist, gently pushing down, coming back around. Again, you don't want to be too hard on it because you don't want to tear the dough. You just want to move it around and poke and prod it a little bit, and use two hands because one hand might get a bit too tiring. Okay, so you can see here now, there's still a little bit of lumpiness to it, but it is a lot more airier and soft now. So it's probably good for us to now make it into a little bowl and then put it back into our bowl here. So I'm just going to flatten it out a little bit. And again, just don't overthink this, just make it into a tight ball. So any way you want to do it, you can follow me here. I'm just going to roll it up like this, and then just sort of tuck the ends in on each side like that. And just keep tucking them in, and then just maybe give it a little pull or drag across the bench like that. Pull and drag. But if you just sort of keep rotating and tucking the ends in, it'll get really tight pretty quickly. Okay, now we're going to put it into our bowl. Before we seal it up with a paper towel though, my goodness, a damp tea towel. I'm just going to show you what to do next. So I did mention olive oil before. So olive oil is really nice to have in pizzas. So I'm going to drizzle some, maybe half a teaspoon. And what's going to happen is the dough is going to soak it all up in the bowl, and it's going to give the dough and the crust a really nice taste and shine when we take it out of the oven. So I'm just going to sprinkle about half a tablespoon in there over the dough. And to make sure it doesn't stick to the bowl, I'm just going to grab my bowl and just swish it around. And I know it's hard to see, but my dough is rolling around in here and it's becoming coated in the olive oil. So it's going to be really nice and rich when it comes out. So I'm just going to seal this up. Going to wait for an hour to an hour and a half for it to double in size, and then I'll let you know what's next. Okay, so your dough is going to be really oily, and that's okay. So I'm just going to grab my dough here and put it onto, I just smothered the bottom of my tray in oil. Just going to put it onto the tray here, and we're going to try and press it down and spread it along so it's covering the full size and area of the tray. Okay, so I'm just going to press it down and try and stretch it. It is going to come back in and shrink, so just be patient and try and stretch it as much as you can. You can kind of take the middle and then pull away, but you can also press down and squish the dough so it gets flatter and flatter. So I'm just going to do that now. Okay, so you can see here I've stretched out my dough across the baking tray. There are some little bubbles even starting to form. We're going to cover it again for around half an hour to 45 minutes just before we bake it. Waiting for it to rise a second time, I'm just going to turn my oven to fan forced again and put it to 220 degrees. If it doesn't go up that far, that's okay. You can just put up to 200. Taking the towel off my pizza now, and if you have a look here, there are some little bubbles because the yeast is rising again. So I've got my sauce here and my cheese. I'm going to sprinkle it over, and I'm going to put it in the oven. Put my toppings on. Remember, you can put whatever you like on there. If you want to put Fruit Loops on there, put Fruit Loops on there. I'm going to get some olive oil and just give it one last little drizzle. But yeah, you can put whatever you like on here. If you've got some capsicum or some mushrooms, go for it. Now I'm just going to put it in the oven. Now I'm going to leave it in here and from anywhere between 15 to 25 minutes, and I'm looking for the crust. My oven's very dirty, but I'm looking for a golden crust around the outside and for my cheese to be really bubbly and also golden. Have a look at this. It's been just over 10 minutes now. We can see that brown crust is starting to form, and look at that bubbling cheese. Just oozing. It's making me so hungry. Okay, let's open and see what it looks like. Woo! That is hot. Oh wow, it looks great though. Oh my goodness. Wow. Doesn't that just look absolutely delicious? So I'm just going to now transfer this over. We can eat this straight away to a chopping board, and I'm going to slice it into little squares. Let's see if this works. I'm going to try and transfer it over one corner with a pair of tongs. So just make sure you get someone to help you do this, because this might be a bit of a fail. Hey! I've got a pizza cutter here that I can slice this up with, but you might just like to use a knife, or even a pair of scissors works well. Just be really careful because it is boiling hot. Grade 6s, I'm sorry, but if you walked into your family room with this beautiful pizza that you've made, I think this beats any takeaway pizza, and it's so cheap and easy to make. And just try a piece. Look at that cheese and that crust that we made. So yummy.